Welcome back to Coach Kelly Cues. Today I'm going to teach you how to do a barbell RDL. I'm going to cue you through it. I'll show you how to set up and give you some common mistakes that you can avoid when approaching RDLs in the gym. The RDL is a hinge pattern, so what that means is that the primary movement should be at your hip joint. Okay, so the goal is for us to get movement here. You are going to also have a slight bend in your knees, but first things first, you kind of want to teach yourself how to hip hinge. If you've never done that before, it's going to be very important for this movement. When we approach the bar, in terms of your grip, kind of just let your arms swing down by your sides, nice and long, and you can just grip the bar wherever your hands land. So they should be right outside your thighs. When you get set up, using a squat rack usually is helpful so that you don't have to pick the bar up off the ground. Just make sure it's set slightly below where you're going to be setting the bar. You don't want to go into a calf raise in order to get the bar back in the rack. So I have my grip slightly outside of my thighs. You can go overhand grip. If you're going heavy, you could do a mixed grip or you could use some wrist straps. We'll take a step out. I want to set my feet about hips width distance apart, okay? Once we initiate, you're gonna keep that bar really close to your thighs, almost to the point where you're sliding the bar down the fronts of your thighs as you push your butt back behind you. You do want to keep a fairly neutral spine. That will look different for everybody. It does not have to be perfectly flat. Some people do tend to extend a little bit more. Some people tend to flex a little bit more. What you want to avoid is going too far in either of those directions. So we don't need to be sticking our tailbone way up like this and jacking our neck up. We also don't want to be working like this with a super rounded spine. So splitting the difference is going to be a good place to stay. And as you noticed, when I'm coming down, my knees are also slightly bending. That is a characteristic of the RDL that allows us to get a little more glute involvement versus if you were doing more of a stiff-legged deadlift where we're trying to go for more hamstrings. Okay, so we're sliding down our thighs, keeping the bar really close. You want to go as far down as you can while your hips are moving back in space. Once you reach that point, we don't really need to touch our toes. You want to just stop when your hip movement stops and then drive your feet into the floor, stand up, and get full extension at the top. Some cues one cue in particular that I really don't like is shifting all your weight into your heels. I've heard a lot of trainers and coaches, I myself have probably used that cue at one point in my career. I don't find it to be helpful unless you're somebody that goes really far into your toes. What I want you to focus on is just keeping your weight centered over your midfoot, over your laces. Okay, so as we push our hips back and the bar comes down, we don't really need to be way back here to where our toes are coming up. You're just not going to feel super balanced, and I find that I lose a lot of connection with my glutes and hamstrings when I do that. So you want to stay a little more centered over the middle of your feet, and that will give you a lot of leverage to drive back up to the top. Let's put it all together.